Your piece is tough. You say you're at 90% recession odds. You call the U.S. response a shame and a disgrace. What do you mean? Let's just first talk about your view on where the economy is headed in the short term.
Well, I wouldn't be one bit surprised if when we look back at the data, it is decided, the National Bureau of Economic Research is the arbiter of such things, that the recession started in March. We don't know that. It takes months to get the data that would be relevant to a call like that. But it wouldn't be a bit surprising to me. And what's driving it, your guests were talking about it a moment ago, is fear. Fear of shopping, I called it in the piece. And you can understand why people don't want to go to movies, restaurants, shopping malls, not to mention the travel that you were focusing on a moment ago. All of those things, spending on all of those categories has probably plummeted in way and much faster than our data system catches it.
All right. And so given that, what do you mean when you say the best stimulus is a kit?
Well, one source of the fear, not the only, but one significant source of the fear is you don't know if people don't know if they're carrying it. The people that are very, very sick, which is a very small number, sadly do know. But lots of other people don't know. And the consequence of that is, well, people don't know. You don't know if you're carrying it yourself. But beyond that, you don't know if the store clerk or the airline stewardess or the barber might be carrying it and not be sick. I mean, we've all learned that people are carrying it. They may not get sick ever, or the symptoms may just be delayed. So the consequence of that is rampant fear, and I don't want to say the cure, but a palliative, the most important palliative I can think of, I think anybody can think of, is much greater testing of the U.S. population. As I mentioned in the piece, it's disgraceful how far we are lagging behind other countries in testing.
Yeah, it's certainly been a big issue and one that we've been talking about quite a bit. In light of that fear, those comments you're making right there, just want to get your reaction to Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, who just a few moments ago actually commented on the current situation and made, again, that comparison to 9/11 and the fear we saw on the heels of that incident.
The travel industry in particular is going to be the hardest hit. That what we're seeing is that similar to after 9/11, there was a big impact on airline travel. Unlike a recession where airlines lower the price of tickets and more people fly, this obviously we just have a complete decrease in volume. So as I said earlier, there may be needs to come back to Congress like we did after September 11th.
So whether it's airlines, whether it's cruises, which we've been talking about, other forms of leisure, hospitality, travel, if you see that broader industry hit particularly hard, what could the broader ripple effects actually be to the economy?
Well, you have the normal ripple effects that you have when a recession begins anywhere, that people in the affected industry, let's say travel, but by the way, I wouldn't limit it to travel. But anyway, the people in the travel industry, their paychecks go down, their profits go down if they're small businesses. Some of them may go out of business. And that has ripple effects on other businesses from which those people buy. They'll be smaller buyers if they remain, and in the case of bankruptcy, not buyers at all. So this is going to go through the economy the way normal recessionary forces go through the economy. But I completely agree with what Secretary Mnuchin just said, but I would go much broader. This is not only about travel. This is about anything that puts people in face-to-face contact. Your previous guests were talking about Netflix optimistically, completely because it doesn't put people in face-to-face contact. But Netflix and businesses like that are a pretty small share of the economy compared to businesses that do put people in face-to-face contact.
Understood. I want to understand part of your point in what you've written also, because this environment is, of course, very political. We are in an election year. It sounds like you're talking about confidence as being a very important ingredient in this, and feeding confidence, consistent communication, and good data.
Yes.
This administration has been shaky on the consistent communication piece, and it sounds like you're saying that without these test kits, we don't have good data.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, there are two separate related issues that you raised there. First is the test kits, which I was emphasizing, so people just know whether they have it or they don't have it. But the other is the communications. Nobody read The Boy Who Cried Wolf to President Trump 3 years ago. Sadly, we're now in a position where after so much lying, who in the country believes what he says? And that's exacerbated, as everybody has noticed, by the inconsistencies coming out of the White House, say, compared to what's coming out of, say, the CDC and health professionals in general. And who would you believe? I think the answer to that is obvious.
I think that's why the market has put so much credibility on Fauci and Mnuchin to a lesser extent. I do want to ask you in terms of short-term medicine and the kinds of things the Treasury Secretary is talking about today: payroll tax holiday, tax deferral, tariff relief. That's one thing they can do unilaterally. What is the best short-term medicine?
I'd like to, there are lots of things wrong with payroll tax relief, but it does have the advantage of getting into the system quickly, very quickly. It's small. This is not a lot of money, but I would emphasize the things that can be done quickly, because as I said before, I think when we look back at this episode, we'll conclude that March 2020 was already a recession month. There are a lot of good ideas. I think the paid sick leave is really, really, really important. And I want to emphasize that means publicly paid. Many of we compare the United States as a laggard to many other countries which mandate that businesses provide paid sick leave. This is a horrible time to tell a lot of small businesses that are reeling that, oh, by the way, you also have to pay for sick leave for your employees. The government needs to do that as quickly as possible. The thing I worry about is that's a new program, and it takes time to ramp these things up. I mean, we should start it yesterday.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how all of this continues to manifest. Finally, though, I want to get your thoughts on the markets and all of the intense volatility we've been seeing, these major moves, not just in equities, not just in crude, but also in treasuries as well. We're starting to get some reports that there's concerns about liquidity in the Treasury market. How closely are you watching that right now? And when we do talk about things like the Fed's ability to intervene, is this an area that you think the central bank is watching closely?
I'm sure they're watching it close. You asked me. I don't have the ability to watch it as closely as the Fed does. I'm sure they're watching it very closely. Almost the last thing on earth they'd want to see is illiquidity in that market. I don't think that's on the top list of worries. The system has been flush with liquidity for a very long time, and the Fed can easily, should that start changing, the Fed can easily provide more liquidity, and I don't have the slightest doubt that they will. So I don't think a liquidity crunch is going to be part of this problem. The uncertainty there is mainly whether the Fed will actually have to do anything to make sure we don't have a liquidity crunch.